Oh shit! Look at that.
So he can't say it didn't happen.
Look at that.
So he can't say it didn't happen.
Watch the right hand for the decoy.
Y'all know chess?
Leaked footage just dropped, and it shows Terence Crawford like we've never seen him before. The intensity, the power, the precision. This isn't training, it's a warning. If Canelo wasn't nervous before, he will be now.
Nice. That's how a star works. You know how to work. You know how to get the most out of everything. Good job.
Terence Bud Crawford has already done what most fighters spend an entire career trying to achieve. But now, he's going after something no one saw coming. He's moving up not one, but two weight divisions to challenge the face of boxing. Canelo Alvarez, a fighter who's known for walking through opponents with brutal power, granite chin, and years of championship experience at the top levels. The size difference alone makes this feel insane. The risk? Career-defining. The reward? History-making. So the question everyone's asking isn't, can Crawford win? It's what if he does? What if Terence Crawford becomes the man to crack the Canelo code? Not with brute strength, but with pure skill, precision, and the kind of ring IQ that's left even elite fighters swinging at air? Because if Crawford pulls this off, we're not just talking about a win. We're talking about a moment that could redefine boxing greatness. This isn't just a big fight. It's one that shouldn't even make sense on paper. Crawford is jumping from 154 pounds to 168 pounds, a weight class where power punches hit harder, bodies are built differently, and even the air feels thicker in the ring. It's not just about gaining weight, it's about surviving in a world where everything is heavier, slower, and far more punishing. Canelo Alvarez has been dominating at super middleweight. His frame, his strength, and his comfort in this division give him a built-in advantage. He's walked through seasoned 168-pounders with shots that would crumble smaller men. So why would Crawford do this? Because in his mind, skill beats size, and history proves he might be right. Terence Crawford isn't just fast, he's calculated. He switches stances mid-fight like it's second nature. He reads opponents the way grandmasters read chessboards. And while Canelo may outweigh him, Crawford believes that with strategy, angles, and flawless footwork, he can nullify brute strength with pure technique. Still, even seasoned analysts are divided. Some are calling it the boldest gamble of Crawford's career, an unnecessary leap into dangerous territory. Others say it's a genius move, a chance to cement himself as one of the greatest fighters to ever live. But Crawford's not here for safe bets. He's not just moving up in weight, he's moving up in legacy, and he's doing it with a plan. One designed to dismantle a king. Because while Canelo's known for his power, Crawford's quietly building a strategy to flip the script. While most fighters ramp up their training for a fight of this magnitude, Terence Crawford has taken it to another level entirely. From the outside, his camp looks intense, but behind those closed gym doors, it's not just about intensity, it's about intention. Every movement, every drill, every round of sparring has a purpose, and that purpose is to beat a man the boxing world once thought unbeatable. Crawford's leg days have become legendary, not just for their difficulty, but for how they're engineered to mimic real ring fatigue. We're talking deep squats, split lunges, and resistance work built to strengthen every twitch muscle that powers his footwork. Because against a fighter like Canelo, who cuts off the ring like a predator, your legs aren't optional. They're your first and last line of survival. His jab, sharper than ever. But this isn't just jab practice, like it's weapon development. His team has brought in Canelo-style sparring partners, replicating the pressure, the head movement, and the low-volume stalking that Canelo uses to lure opponents into traps. But Bud isn't falling for those traps. In fact, he's designing new ones. He's been drilling stance switching mid-combo, confusing sparring partners with angles they've never seen before. This isn't flashy for the sake of it, and it's surgical adaptation. Because when Canelo adjusts, Crawford wants to be 2 steps ahead. And this isn't just about surviving against Canelo's power. Crawford and his team are targeting Canelo's weaknesses, the slow feet, the reliance on timing over output, and his fading gas tank. They're not training to match Canelo, they're training to dismantle him. But if you think all this is just hard work and hope, the experts have something to say that might change your mind. The fans see the size gap, the casuals see the risk, but the legends, they see the blueprint.
I'm going with Terence Crawford, you know. Big weight jump, a dangerous fight, but somebody's got to prove to me that they can break Terence Crawford's will and that he can't figure it out against you. You know, it ain't no disrespect toward Canelo, but I've said this the last couple of years. I'm not betting against Terence Crawford against nobody right now. You got to show me that you can be.
Andre Ward, a fighter who knows what it means to rise through weight classes and stay unbeaten, didn't hesitate when asked. It's not about size, it's about adaptability, he said. And that's where Crawford shines. His mental toughness in Ward's eyes is more dangerous than Canelo's muscle.
No, Canelo's a stronger guy, the bigger guy. But in the fight with a guy that moves around, and if Crawford uses his skills and his legs and his technique and just his ability, I think he can win. He can win the fight in decision, as long as he doesn't get hit with those big shots from Canelo.
Then there's Nonito Donere, a technician himself, who zeroed in on a subtle truth that could swing the fight. He pointed out that Crawford's legs don't just move, they flow. His ability to glide across the canvas and reset positions leaves flat-footed fighters guessing. And if there's one undeniable truth about Canelo in recent years, it's this: he's not moving like he used to.
Fought them both. Like, what are the differences between them?
Canelo's strong and he's easily hit. Very easily hit, very easily. Compared to when I fought against Crawford, I couldn't hit clean. They both hit hard because, and you can see the strength when I was fighting against Crawford. He is very strong as well. So look, yeah, but why does he need to give that much weight? He's pound for pound #1 in the world. Why does he have to go for fighting Canelo?
Amir Khan, who's faced both men in the ring, dropped a brutally honest comparison. Canelo hits hard, he said, but he's easy to hit. Crawford, I couldn't land clean once. That's not just praise, that's a warning. These aren't internet hot takes. These are battle-tested voices. Champions who've fought on the biggest stages, who've studied Canelo's habits and felt Crawford's precision firsthand. And what they're saying is clear. Crawford has the tools. He's not walking into this blindly. And if you still think Crawford's confidence is misplaced, just wait until you hear what Canelo's been hiding in plain sight. For years, Canelo Alvarez was the gold standard. The unstoppable force who dismantled legends and rose through divisions with a kind of quiet, ruthless confidence. He was the predator, stalking, timing, exploding. But then came his latest fight against William Skull, a bout that most assumed would be a routine win, maybe even a knockout showcase. Instead, it raised alarms. Over 12 full rounds, Canelo, the same man who once broke opponents down with volume and viciousness, threw just 445 punches, the lowest of his career in a championship bout. He landed even fewer. There was no sense of urgency, no spark, no gear shift when it mattered. The dominance that once defined him, now replaced with cautious pacing and unexplained passivity. What happened to the Canelo who marched through Caleb Plant and shattered Billy Joe Saunders' orbital bone? The man who dared to fight Sergey Kovalev at light heavyweight? That man seemed missing, and fans noticed. Critics began to whisper what was once unthinkable. Has Canelo Alvarez slowed down? And if the answer is yes, then Terence Crawford, with his sharp timing and endless gas tank, might not just challenge him, he might expose him.
Okay, you understand me? You see what that say? Canelo Charlo what is the WBA junior middleweight champion in recess? Canelo Charlo is the WBC junior middleweight champion in recess. Nah, man. Virgil Ortiz Jr. is the WBC intern junior middleweight champion. Nah, man. So make it make sense. People got to make it make sense. Charlo's still a big dog there. Yeah, that's my camera behind me.
Canelo's decline hasn't been explosive. It's been gradual, almost too subtle for the average fan to clock. But those who've watched closely, those who've analyzed every step, jab, and breath, are starting to connect the dots. Age is catching up. At 34, with over 60 professional fights and nearly 2 decades in the ring, the wear is undeniable. His once underrated head movement has slowed. His legs, already known to be heavy, now look like they're stuck in sand. And his trademark body shots? Fewer. Less venomous. Less frequent. Even veteran commentator Jim Lampley, known for his measured takes, didn't hold back. He pointed to Canelo's diminishing power, noting that the Mexican superstar hasn't recorded a knockout win since 2021, almost 4 years ago. Let that sink in. The same fighter who used to brutalize opponents now seems content to coast. His punches still land hard, but they don't finish. His jab, once an underrated tool to set up combos and control distance, has nearly vanished from his arsenal. And in a fight against someone like Crawford, a man who uses footwork and angles as weapons, no jab means no control. It's not just about punches thrown, it's about intent. And lately, Canelo's intent has looked hesitant. Some analysts believe this is tactical, that he's conserving energy, fighting smarter. Others aren't so sure. They argue it's not strategy, it's necessity. His body, they say, simply can't do what it used to. And against someone who can press, pivot, and punish lazy moments, someone like Crawford, that's not just dangerous, that's fatal. But just when you think you figured it out, when the narrative feels clear, a new wrinkle changes everything. Boxing, the first battle is rarely in the ring. It's in the press conferences, the headlines, and most of all, the face-offs. When Crawford and Canelo finally stood toe-to-toe, fans expected the size difference to be glaring. Obvious proof that Bud was in over his head. But what they saw surprised everyone. Crawford didn't look outsized. He didn't look overwhelmed. In fact, standing across from the Mexican superstar, he looked poised, even comfortable. Observers noticed that Crawford had filled out smartly, not with bloated bulk or rushed muscle gain, but with methodical mass, added over time to maintain his natural agility. This wasn't a fighter who bulked up overnight. It was a man who's been planning this move long before we ever knew the fight was real. And then came the whispers. Did Canelo hold back in his last fight on purpose? Was his sluggish performance against William Skull a miscalculated energy-saving move, or a deliberate play to bait Crawford into false confidence? Some fans believe Canelo knew Crawford would be ringside, that he was saving his tricks, that he didn't want to show too much. If that's true, then Crawford may not just be stepping into a fight, he could be walking into a trap. But here's the twist. What if Crawford saw through it all along? Because the more you look at this buildup, the more it seems that Bud might not just be fighting Canelo's body, he might already be beating him at the mental game. Everyone's talking. Twitter pundits, sports podcasts, barbershop analysts, all with their own take. But in a sport built on proving it in the ring, only a few opinions really matter.
Come on, he's human. So he had a few hiccups. He won the fight. He's Terence Crawford. A lot of people say, "Oh, Teddy, you make him so good. You're always saying how great Crawford is." You know, but who's he beating? He unified the what was his first division? Lightweight. Then he unified the junior. Then he unified the junior welter, then he unified the welter. I think I got the weight classes right. It doesn't matter. He unified like 3 different weight classes.
Ones from fighters who've lived it. Start with Teddy Atlas, one of boxing's most respected trainers and analysts. He's called Crawford the most complete fighter in boxing today. Not just because of his skill, but because of the way he adapts. Like water in the ring, changing form without losing pressure. Atlas says Crawford isn't just good. He's dangerous because he's disciplined. Every move, every thought is intentional.
I think Crawford wants this fight a lot. He wants this fight, and I think he will be more active than Canelo's previous opponent, and he has different mentality. He has champion mentality. I think the fight will be much more interesting.
Then there's Dmitry Bivol, the man who already beat Canelo. He knows exactly what it takes. And his warning? Simple. Crawford won't let Canelo rest. Bivol's not just referring to physical pressure, and he means mental exhaustion. Crawford never gives you time to reset. He forces you to think, second guess, hesitate, and against a slower, aging fighter like Canelo, hesitation is lethal.
The Ring magazine, which is owned by Turkey, reported that Canelo and Crawford have agreed to the September date and that it's essentially on. What is your I know this has been rumored and talked about, but now it seems like a done deal. What's your reaction to this?
It's a good fight. You know, it's a good fight for both of them. Good fight for, I think it's more important for Crawford than anybody, you know, but I think if anybody could beat Canelo, I think Crawford could.
And finally, David Benavidez, one of the most feared super middleweights on the planet, doesn't hesitate when asked who could beat Canelo next. If anyone can do it, it's Crawford, he says. Not because Bud hits harder, but because he's smarter, sharper, and has a fire that's hard to measure until you're standing across from it. So while the internet debates and the fans draw lines in the sand, the fighters, the ones who know, see something deeper, something dangerous. Because while the world argues, tweets, and predicts, Crawford isn't talking. He's just preparing, quietly, relentlessly, chasing a legacy. What makes this fight different isn't just the hype, it's the implications. If Terence Crawford beats Canelo Alvarez on September 12th, it won't just be another win on BoxRec. It will be a seismic shift in how we define greatness in boxing.
Finally happening, y'all. We have Terence Bud Crawford going up against Canelo Alvarez on September 12th, and this is what boxing fans have been waiting for. Terence Bud Crawford has some of the best hands I have ever seen. But this man right here with this red beard got some of the most powerful punches that boxing has ever seen. This is going to be a fight that we all have been waiting for. These are the bouts.
Undefeated fighter, moving up 2 full divisions, taking on a future Hall of Famer in his own backyard, and winning? That's the kind of moment that breaks the rules of what we thought was possible in this sport. He'd be a 4-division champion, a unified kingpin, and arguably the most versatile fighter of his generation. No asterisks, no excuses, just undeniable dominance across weight classes. But let's be clear, and if he loses, if Canelo's size, experience, and power are just too much, then Crawford will have risked everything. Legacy, reputation, maybe even longevity, on a mountain too steep to climb. And that's what makes this fight so compelling.
That make UFC, because in the UFC, the best fight the best, but in boxing, that seldom happens. Like why haven't we had Shakur Stevenson versus Tank Davis yet? This is sometimes boxing, for whatever reason, decides not to give us the fights that we actually want to see, but finally, thanks to some Saudi money, clearly, we are going to get one of the biggest boxing events of the last 10 years.
It's not safe, it's not predictable, it's boxing at its most raw, daring, and real. Because whether it ends in heartbreak or history, this is the kind of fight that reminds us why we watch in the first place. So what do you think? Is Terence Crawford walking into his biggest victory or his first defeat? Drop your prediction in the comments and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Because when the punches start flying, you're going to want the real breakdown, not the barbershop version. Until next time, peace out.